Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Monday, March 10th. It is the first day of the free agent contact period. Don't call it legal tampering. If it's legal, it's not tampering. I hate that word. Free agent contact period starts today at noon. Free agents can officially sign starting Wednesday at 4 p.m. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be very active. And how do we know they're going to be very active? Because Omar Khan is their general manager. And I think some people have forgotten what this man is all about. I understand that the end of the 2024 offseason with the Steelers getting left at the altar by Brandon Ayuk did not go the way that anyone wanted to. But everyone I've heard, my mentions have been full of the Steelers never do anything. The Steelers won't do this. The Steelers won't do that. The same old Steelers. They're too conservative. Art Rooney's cheap. That's all my social media feeds have been talking about for weeks and weeks. And what does Omar Khan do? Spend $150 million before free agency even started, sending a second-round pick last night to the Seattle Seahawks for DK Metcalf. I've been saying it for years, people. The Steelers are not the same. Do not sit there in your living room and expect the same old Steelers to do the same old Steelers stuff. They've got a different guy calling the shots, and they're going to run things differently. He's aggressive. He's not going to sit and stand back, and you're going to see moves like this continue. This is just the first domino. They're going to go get a quarterback. Who? I don't know. We're still figuring that out. They've been linked to just about everyone in the entire universe. Most recently, this morning, Adam Schefter connecting them to Aaron Rodgers. Yesterday, it was Diana Rossini and Sam Darnold. I think those two things probably started as Omar was looking for a little bit of leverage, as Justin Fields seems very intent to get to the free agency period because of the interest from the New York Jets. The Steelers really don't want him to. But, of course, leverage can turn into real interest, especially if Fields is committed to going and hearing what the Jets have to say. The Steelers will quickly pivot to one of those other options. Russell Wilson still in the fold, but sort of seems like the last choice at this point, despite the fact that the Steelers just got his former target in Metcalf. Seems like David Mulligetta basically called Omar Khan's bluff about, if Justin Fields won't sign before the start of the free agency, the Steelers will just sign Russ. I'm no longer certain that's going to happen here just 2 or so hours before the start of free agency. But the Steelers will get a quarterback. I also expect them to be active in the cornerback market. We've talked a ton about the players that are available there. 10 or so quality starting free agents, and I think the Steelers could land more than one of them if they could look at a guy like a Nate Hobbs or a guy like in a trade, Jair Alexander, or someone like Paulson Adebo, Carlton Davis, Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel. There's so many DJ Reed that they will get at least one and maybe two cornerbacks. And don't rule out some big splash in the form of a defensive lineman either. You remember Omar mentioned that at the combine. I don't think that was something that was on anybody's dance card at that moment. I think most of us were focused on defensive line in the draft, but he said trade or free agency is a possibility at that position too. Look out, a number of good defensive line options available in free agency. Of course, Milton Williams from the Philadelphia Eagles, the big name, but there are several others out there as well that the Steelers could look to add. We talked on Friday with DB about guys like Poona Ford, BJ Hill, in terms of a run stuffer. There are plenty of options if the Steelers want to make a splash on the defensive line. They came into the week with over $60 million in salary cap space. They can make plenty more. In fact, up to another $60 million more. I don't expect them to do all of it, but they can extend TJ Watt, which will reduce his cap hit. They can restructure the contracts of Alex Highsmith, Pat Freiermuth, Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick. They can release some players, most notably Larry Ogunjobi, if they're going to sign a defensive tackle. That could save them another $7 million. And remember, these initial year contracts are often very low against the cap. So, like this deal for DK Metcalf, he comes to the Steelers with $18 million in cash commitments from the Seahawks this year. But that can be structured any number of different ways on the new deal the Steelers are going to sign within the 5-year, $150 million contract, the biggest contract given out in Steelers history, a contract bigger than the one that TJ Watt is currently playing on. You remember all those things that people keep saying the Steelers would never do? Yeah, that contract could be structured in a way that his cap hit this year's like $8 million, $5 million. I don't know. You can play around the numbers however you want. So don't assume that just because he's owed 18 that that's what his cap hit is going to be. This year could actually end up being a lot less than that. TJ Watt's contract extension will significantly reduce his cap hit this year by as much as $20 million. And so Omar's got all kinds of money to play with, and he's not just going to sit there and let it burn and hole in his pocket. I don't know, this idea that the Steelers are cheap. Look, you want to talk about facilities, you want to talk about coaches. Yeah, sure. You can make that argument. You want to talk about the players on the field spending to the cap? No, absolutely not. The Steelers have the space. In fact, they have to spend the money. Every NFL team has to spend 90% of the salary cap on a rolling basis, 3 or 4 years, depending on what year of the CBA it is. They'll spend it. They have to. They're gonna. And they're going to do it wisely because Omar is good at this. I think some of you forgot. That's all I got for today. We will have more with me and Smitty at 6 p.m. Free agency spectacle having taken place between then and now. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. Maybe we'll have a quarterback under contract to talk about. Make sure you just like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform. Might even go with an emergency episode in between if something crazy happens. And in the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I got to end this episode with a special shout out to my friend, Craig Wolfley, a friend to anyone that knew him. He died, the Steelers color broadcaster and longtime offensive lineman, died at the age of 66 recently, was announced this morning by his family after a brief fight with cancer. Wolf was absolutely the man, someone I think everyone on that Steelers beat looked up to, just always willing to give of himself and his time, and someone that I am really going to miss. Shout out to Chaluch, and say hi to Tunch for us. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, enjoy.